talked to a woman at the University of Chicago who studies black youth, and she says more black young people in America today have been involved in boycotts than were involved in boycotts. So we think of boycotts as the emblem of the civil rights era African American community. It's being swapped out with new kinds of citizenship that's shaped by the digital world. That's about applying our collective skill as consumers to transform the landscape that we live in. So next slide. So we'll skip through a couple because I'm running long on time and I want to. So what this is saying essentially is that our schools, this is the Civic Mission of Schools report, has found that in fact the way you get kids committed to your community is to allow them opportunities to participate in the decision making in schools. So that's well understood, but the same report tells us that schools are going to be really reluctant to give any power back to students in the current environment. The decision-making power of student governments has been curtailed, that student newspapers are being censored, that schools are extending their regulation of student speech outside of schools, the things they write on their own computers and put on their blogs, and so forth. And we're moving in the opposite direction. We're boxing it in. At the same time, we go to the next slide. Keep going. That we're boxing in, and meanwhile, while having wired the classroom, we've shut out the forms of participatory culture that I've been talking about, right? We're banning YouTube. We're banning Facebook and MySpace. We're discouraging the use of Wikipedia. And this has an effect of making the schools almost hermetically sealed from the world that I've been describing to you during this presentation. We go to the next slide. This is, again, social networking sites no longer available on library computers. We go to the next slide. And so I'm going to end with this story that sort of illustrates the phenomenon that we're dealing with. We've been doing work on how to teach Herman Melville's Moby Dick in new ways that take advantage of all the affordances of the new media landscape. Project we thought was deeply conservative. We start with the great American novel, conservative in content, progressive in technique. But what we discovered was that most of the schools we were teaching, students couldn't look up information about Herman Melville on their school computers because the title of his novel had the word Dick in it. And the school filters blocked all the sites for Moby Dick. So our school library filtering technology is in the order of the snickering fourth graders who laugh every time the teacher mentions the name of that book. Right? And this is the limit that we're facing as we deal with our schools to try to introduce these new techniques, these new changes that are taking place in our society. They're being filtered out. And so the challenge is you think about a community like Long Beach that's going to build want to build a creative community, you want to build a space. You've got to think about how you get these creative practices and these participatory practices back into education so they provide opportunities for those kids left behind the participation gap, and they don't turn off the brains of those kids who are having richer experiences on their home computer than they're getting in the classroom. And so that's a challenge I leave you with in my remarks. So I've run a bit long. Should I take a question or two, or do people want to go directly?
Just a couple questions.
Okay. Yes.
I have so many, but I'll stick to net neutrality. If the challenges to net neutrality were to gain any traction, what kind of threat do you think that presents to this environment?
Well, it's hard to know exactly. I mean, net neutrality, we're trying to lock down and protect the freedom to participate now because we don't know what comes if we shift policies. But with net neutrality, the absence of net neutrality results in people being able to charge different uses of the internet and provide different levels of speed and access to those materials. And the result is that the corporate uses of the internet, which can make more money for the communication systems, will get better treatment. We'll block out the kind of grassroots creativity. Right now, what's exciting is that young people are able to share what they're creating with each other and exist more or less on equal footing with the other kinds of media production that are going on in society. And I think there would be a real chilling effect on some of the stuff I'm describing if we lost that kind of, if we didn't secure now net neutrality. But it looks like policy coming out of Washington is more and more pro-net neutrality under the current administration. So I'm optimistic that that's a battle that's going to get resolved fairly quickly. But it's, definitely been a long struggle for those of us who follow the internet. Yes?
First off, you're preaching to the choir when you're talking about this stuff. We have a grant with the California Consumer Protection Foundation to go all over the state teaching nonprofits and school districts, but we haven't had any taken from school districts how to actually use Facebook and MySpace with high school and middle school youth responsibly, and how to teach them how to make choices on the internet, much like we should be teaching them how to make choices on the street. And what's happened is we've got a few takers, but the gatekeepers really are the IT people, not necessarily the enlightened curriculum people.
Yeah.
And also I wanted to let you know that that I always start my speeches by saying, at 17 we don't let kids on MySpace and Facebook, but at 18 we let them go kill somebody in Iraq. We're not teaching kids, teenagers, how to practice adulthood.
Yeah.
We're not giving them places to do that. We're
So, yeah,
creating a hiding mentality.
You know, right now, for a lot of schools, access to the social networks is sort of shaped by federal policies, like the proposed Deleting Online Predators Act, which is, like many pieces of legislation, Orwellian, and it is totally misaligned. Online predators will still be there. The young people are the ones who are going to be deleted by that policy. But if the concern is keeping kids safe, it's hard for me to understand why they're not safer in a world where teachers and librarians can give them advice about how to use social network sites, in a world where we say, we're locking it out, not at school, deal with it on your own. And so it's a weird backwards policy that if you really believe these online social networks are as unsafe as advocates of that policy are, the more reason we need to bring it into schools so that we can help young people learn how to deal with it safely, ethically, and responsibly. I happen to believe those concerns are overstated, but even if we took them at face value, it's hard to figure out why anyone would believe it should not be in the schools under those circumstances. Thank you.